this couldn't be me, baby. You see, I wasn't raised like that. Well, these women are jealous, lying about the things I do. And even the fellas, they're lying on me too. Now they do me wrong at the drop of a hat. But all I got to say is this about that: you didn't see my draws. Beside nobody's bed, you didn't find my hat. I still got my hat on my head. You say you saw somebody who looks exactly like me. But if you didn't come up and touch me, oh baby, then it sure wasn't me. You see, the women are jealous about the things I do. And even the fellas, they're lying on me too. Now they do me wrong at the drop of a hat. But all I got to say is this about that: you didn't find my drawers. Nobody's bed. You didn't find my hat. I still got my hat on my head. You say you saw somebody who looks exactly like me. But if you didn't come up and touch me, then it sure wasn't me. If you didn't come up and touch me, oh baby, then it sure wasn't me. If you didn't come up and touch me, then it sure wasn't me. If you didn't come up and touch me, hey baby, then it sure wasn't me. If you didn't come up and touch me.
Issues That Matter with Calvin Lester and Stephen Jackson on WKSH 97.7 The Heat.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm Calvin Lester. Stephen Jackson is en route. And we thank you for taking some of your time this evening to engage with us. We pray that this conversation that we have tonight is going to be beneficial to you, intellectually stimulating, informative, and all of those things. But before we get started, we always take a moment to thank our station owner, Brother Johnny Antoine, for giving us this opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, in the days that we live in, there's so much misinformation out there. There are so many people who are working very hard to just give you bad information, to put you in a bad position so that you can't make good decisions. And this station is the only, well, one of the two only African-American owned, locally owned, controlled members of the media that allow us to talk to you about the things that are going on. And so all praises we give to Brother Johnny Antoine for giving us this opportunity. We appreciate him for that, because he didn't have to do it, but he does, because he very much has a heart for things in the community, and we appreciate him for having such a kind heart for the community that he loves, that he's from. So we thank him for that. And I would say to you, if you have a business that you want to grow, then you absolutely need to call Johnny Antoine, and when the show is over, and talk to him about how he can help you grow your business. If you're out there watching on Beyonce's Internet, please go to our Facebook page. Please go to our social media, our YouTube, click the bell, share it with other people so that we can continue to get this information out. And of course, if you want to participate, there are a couple of ways you can do it this evening. We have the hotline. The hotline number is 318-779-0459, 318-779-0459. Or if I said before, if you're watching on Beyonce's Internet, feel free to enter us a message in the chat, and we will bring you available and listen to what you have to say. So, got a few things we want to talk about in the headlines. I think we're going to have a guest that's going to call in a little bit later. But one of the things that I saw tonight in New York City, President Clinton, Bill Clinton, President Barack Obama, and President Joe Biden are having a joint fundraiser in New York City. And if the numbers are to be believed, they believe that they will raise, because they've got the event is sold out. They are believing that they're going to raise $25 million tonight. And at an event where you have the three living Democratic presidents, or three of the four, because Jimmy Carter's still living, 3 to 4 Democratic presidents still living, showing solidarity for President Joe Biden, and realizing that it's going to take everything that's done to raise the resources so he can get his message out, so he can be successful in November. So I thought that was really powerful that the Democratic Party's leaders, the presidents, are getting together to support Joe Biden. I think that speaks volume. That's a big deal. One of the things that is happening here on a local, well, let's stay federal. Just this week, the Supreme Court had an argument talking about the morning after pill. I think it's technical as mifepristone, I think. And there's an argument that is going around that says, even though this drug is secure, even though this medicine has been tested by the Food and Drug Administration for over 20 years and is found to be safe, a group of Republicans found a judge somewhere in the Fifth Circuit, somewhere in Texas or Arkansas, that agreed with them, and they're trying to ban this particular drug. And so they went before the Supreme Court, had oral arguments this week. And what was interesting in that is there's a little known, very antiquated act called the Comstock Act. And this Comstock Act was passed, I don't know, maybe in the 1800s, early 1900s, and it purports to be anti-abortion, anti-contraception. I was going to say back from a time where men could tell women what to do with their bodies, but apparently they're trying to do that now. And so one of the things that people are believing is that the Supreme Court is going to overturn the challenge because they did not have what's called legal standing. They didn't have a right in a case of controversy, but what is underlying it is this Comstock Act is allowing other people to challenge it. And so one of the things that they are hoping for is that a democratically controlled Congress, both from the House of Representatives and from the Senate, will move forward to get rid of the Comstock Act and ban it to antiquity where it belongs. So we will see about that. One of the things that I saw here locally, I say locally, I'm going to talk about this in the state level. In the state, Louisiana State Senate, don't know if it has passed the House. We'll ask our resident state representative, Stephen Jackson, when he gets here, if it has passed their deal. But the Louisiana State Senate passed a bill that creates the second majority minority district. That would be the second African American based district in the state of Louisiana, as you currently know. There are there are 7 justices for the Louisiana State Supreme Court, and only one of them is an African American seat, African American majority, a majority minority, and that is the district in and around New Orleans. And there was a very complicated and very convoluted lawsuit that tracks back to the early 1990s that talked about how they were to create the seat and the settlement that basically gave rise to that seat in New Orleans. And of course, one of the things that has been theorized by folks with the NAACP, the Legal Defense Fund, and things of that nature is, if we're talking about justice, if we're talking about representation, then the numbers for these districts have to be equivalent. And of course, if you've got 7 districts, then at least there should be 2 African American districts. And so, to his credit, Governor Landry has agreed with that and is moving to encourage the legislature to draw those 2nd districts. So, of course, we know the 2nd congressional district was drawn in such a way it goes from Baton Rouge and it comes through the middle of the state to Shreveport. Well, the state Senate district is going to also be a Baton Rouge-based district, but as I appreciate it, it goes up the river parishes, the Felicianas, the Tensaws, the Madisons, over to Richland, and maybe even to Ouachita. So that has been approved by the Senate, has to be approved by the House of Representatives, the State House of Representatives, and then if it's done, it will be put on Governor Landry's desk to sign. And of course, that will give us a second, the possibility of having a second African American on the Louisiana State Supreme Court, which is huge, because the more times you have representation, the better off it is. So we're going to take a real quick break. We're going to play a little music, and then I might come back if our guest isn't in. I got a story to tell, and then we'll get with our guest. You're listening to 97.7 Heat WKSH. We play what we want to play and say what we want to say. Stick with us.
See, I had me a good woman, but I just couldn't see the light. No, when she was at work, I was hanging out every night, driving her car, burning up all her gas. Every time she filled up, 3 days was all it lasted. She was a good woman to me, but I just couldn't see the light. Now she wanna leave me alone, so I gotta start treating her right. I gotta make a U-turn, I gotta turn around, y'all, cause I was going the wrong way. I gotta start all over again. I gotta make a U-turn, I gotta turn around, y'all, cause I was going the wrong way. I gotta start all over again. I gotta make a U-turn. I woke up early this morning, expecting breakfast in bed, but all I got was a kiss on my forehead. I guess she done got tired of the thing that been going on. I gotta make a change before my baby be gone. Lord knows I love her, and I know that she love me too. But if she ever leave me, I just don't know what the hell I'ma do. I gotta make a U-turn, I gotta turn around, y'all, cause I was going the wrong way. I gotta start all over again. I gotta make a U-turn, I gotta turn around, y'all, cause I was going the wrong way. I gotta start all over again. I gotta make a U-turn. I gotta turn around, y'all, 'cause I was going the wrong way. I gotta start all over again. I gotta make a U-turn. I gotta turn around, y'all, 'cause I was going the wrong way. I gotta start all over again. I gotta make a U-turn.
Issues That Matter with Calvin Lester and Stephen Jackson on WKSH 97.7 The Heat.
And we are back. We're waiting for our guest to give us a call. So I want to give you a quick story. So we're very excited about the outcome of the election last Saturday. Certainly, we are excited about what Chief Whitehorn, now Sheriff-elect Whitehorn, is going to do. But I want to share with you some of the behind the scenes. And I'm writing about this, so I got an op-ed coming. As you will recall, last year, after Chief Whitehorn won that would have been the second time, there was this whole deal about a challenge to the process. And a group of lawyers came up with these, arguments. Somebody signed in the wrong place, people voted in the wrong place, blah, 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 right? And so went to court, and ultimately the Louisiana Supreme Court said that we had to redo the election, even though I thought that was a bad decision, but we had to redo the election. Even though he clearly won by one vote, we had to redo the election. Well, what you need to understand is across this country, there is a new face of voter suppression. The new face of voter suppression is where you send in literally teams of aggressive right-wing lawyers to try to overturn elections, to try to manipulate the process, to try to convince you that something that has worked for years all of a sudden is wrong. Many of you were watching the returns on Saturday night, and you were asking, where are the early votes? Where are the mail-in ballots? Surely they had those early, and how can we get a count? Well, let me tell you why you couldn't get a count. I know because I was there. The law allows candidates and campaigns to have observers at different parts of the process. And on the Saturday of the election, the Caddo Parish Election Board opens the early votes, not the early votes, the mail-in votes, and goes through a process of counting them and scanning them. Now, the Caddo Parish Election Board is comprised of a person who is nominated by the governor, appointed by the governor. You have someone that represents the Republican Party. You have someone that represents the Democratic Party. You have the registrar of voters, and you have someone from the clerk of court. Usually the clerk of court himself sits in, right? And when the clerk of court's not there, he has a designee. Same thing with the registrar of voters. And so we got there about 7:45. They talked to us about what was going to happen. We talked for maybe about 30, 40 minutes. There was an argument about if they could see the ballots, if the Nicholson campaign was making, these arguments. They were throwing laws around and whatnot. They said, well, look, we're going to start the process at 9:30. We left about 9. I ran up the street, got a cup of coffee, came back, and they closed the door behind us. When they start that process, you are called sequestered, just like a jury. So when they close the door from 9:45 until 8 o'clock, you cannot leave. You do not have a phone. You do not have communication with anybody, because they want to have that process to be as pure as possible so that no one could say, hey, we down 20 votes, you need to do this. Or no, they not voting over here, what do I need to do? None of that goes on. And so what happens is they had almost 8,000 some odd ballots. And as many of you know, the new numbering system for the ballots or for the registrar of voters has people in precincts, but each precinct is geographically based. In other words, if you're in precinct 1 dash whatever, that means you live in Caddo Commission District 1. Or if you're like me, you live in Caddo Parish Commission District 3. So my precinct is going to be 3-1 or 3-4. So there was a process, and they had all of those ballots. They had all 8,000 ballots in these huge tins, those things, the plastic things you get from Walmart, right? And they're they're numbered, the whole 9 yards. So what has to happen is it has to be counted. Well, the other campaign made this big argument about they want to investigate every last one of the ballots. That means all 8,000. Well, the law is really clear. No one has an absolute right to see all those ballots. Think about this. If we were to give a campaign the right to look at every ballot, or not really the ballots, the flaps, and I'm going to be specific about that in a minute. If they had the ability to do that, you would never get an answer on election night, okay? So the law says they have a right to inspect. That right to inspect is limited, and the Attorney General, who is not African American, nor is the Attorney General a Democrat, said, our reading of the law is you got an hour. So literally for an hour, rather than to start the process of examining the flaps to make sure they're what they need to be, we took an hour and we looked at flaps from districts 1, 2, and 9. 1 being north of town, 2 being MLK Cooper Road, then they decided to do 9. So while we were doing that, there were 3 tables because there were 3 of them and 2 of us. And we were sitting at the end of the table, Johnny, and they literally would take every envelope and show it to us. Now, they had to cover the parts that had the people's, they had their mother's maiden name, because that's one of the ways you secure the ballot, right? So they covered the maiden name, but then they said you got to see it. Now, on the outside of the flap, you put your mother's maiden name, you put the date of the election, and then there's a box. You, as a voter, sign your name and print your name. The second box, your witness signs their name and prints their name. So at that point, we looked at all of those ballots, and you can imagine that was quite an arduous process. The point that I'm trying to make in all of that is, moving forward, that's going to be the new norm, unfortunately. And if you don't have people in the room to make sure that that process goes smoothly, or that they are not unnecessarily burdening the process, you'll have a situation like they had in Arizona where, people didn't like the outcome of the election and they were threatening the election workers. And of course, the Justice Department wound up putting some people in jail behind that. And so I just think that the folks in Caddo Parish need to know, one, we have an excellent registrar of voters. We have an excellent office that works with the clerk of court. That whole process is an excellent process. I got to see it close up hand. They literally tore those envelopes apart. They count them, they certify them, they take each ballot out, they count it, they certify that, they stack them, and they do that 8,000 times. And they do that over a course of a whole evening. So at about 5:45, they were halfway done. So many of you that were looking at 8 o'clock or 8:15 to have the absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots be the first number come up, it wasn't there, because at 8 o'clock, we will still count them. After they take them all, the ballots out, and stack them and put them back where they have to be, all those mail-in ballots have to be scanned. And then after they're scanned, there's a process to make sure that, every scan went through and the whole 9 yards. So there are double, triple redundancies. There are double and triple certifications in terms of the numbers. That's why when, if you recall, when they did this whole quote unquote recount, they went through all the ballots, the numbers didn't change because they had done a good job and they continue to do a good job. Louisiana has one of the best election systems in the country, and our country really has some of the best election integrity in the world. That's why before we got, some people that are complaining about because they lost, United States used to send our folks across the world to teach other people how to do elections. And so you need to know that there's some security there, but you also need to know that there are going to be continuing efforts to try to delegitimize that process. And if they can't beat you, they'll ask questions. And so that's kind of what that is. I'm gonna write something about it this weekend and put it in an op-ed so we can get some more clarity. But
yeah, that's a good point of reference or frame of reference. That's a good frame of reference because we need to make sure that we are aware that we need to have people in the room when it's time for elections and it's time to contest elections. And so there are some bills that are floating that will likely change the absentee voting process. They're making their way through the election cycle, so hopefully we will continue to have one of the good systems that we have, and we can move forward and continue to be good at this election thing. So
Right.
I'm excited to see Sheriff-elect Whitehorn do well, and hopefully looking forward to July 1st when it's his time to become and be sworn in.
right. All right. Well, we've got a guest that's going to be calling in hopefully in the next couple of minutes. So we're gonna take a real quick break and play a little music, pay a few bills, and then we will come back and we're gonna talk about a very important issue for us relative to some things that we are concerned about, that being this whole DEI thing. So give us a minute. We'll be back. You are listening to Issues That Matter. This is 97.7 WKSH. We play what we want to play and we say what we want to say. Stick with us. We'll be back.
Well, I couldn't resist the urge to tell you the end of my story. For all of those who wanted to know, was there life after the pain? After the pain, you come and love me, and I welcome you. You're a glad sight to see. And after the rain and all that I have been through, still can't explain how I can still love you like I do, but I do, yes I do, still love you like I do. Though you still do me like you do.
Mic check. There I am. There I go. Yeah, I'm good.
Sit and we'll talk a while. And I fight
Okay.
with all my might to hold back the tears from falling with a pleasant smile. And after the rain, I can't believe you got the nerve to still call me baby. never taken back again. Well, it's a woman's prerogative to change her mind, isn't it? But we do it all the time. Don't laugh, you probably done the same thing too. It's just that you know me and I don't know you. You know, one thing time has taught me that having a piece of man is better than having no man at all. So I'm gonna just take what I got and work with it. You understand what I mean? And don't you remember thinking back just a few years when people used to try to help you stay together? They find out you on the verge of breaking up. They used to cook up a little food and throw a little party and whisper things in your ear like, don't blame Mr. Charlie. Mr. Charlie is just a man and he's doing the best he can. I heard him say, don't blame Mr. Charlie. Mr. Charlie is just a man and he's doing the best he can. That's why I still love you like I do. Though you still do me like you do. I know that you know it's true. After all I've been through, I should be through with love. But there's a God up above that keeps saying, Betty, try. Don't give up, you know why. The sun is gonna shine, 'cause you are mine, all mine. You just keep doing your best, and I will do the rest. 'Cause I love you, Betty, like I do. That's why I still love you like I do. Though you still do me like you do. My love is deeper than any ocean, and my love is higher than any mountain. It's full of emotion. My love is full of devotion. My love is in and out of season, and I love you with or without a reason. You see, God is gonna bless me for loving you, for all the times that you treated me wrong and I kept being true. You see, God's eyes, they're not closed. He's not asleep. Said he is watching every move you make, every secret you keep. Boy, you better be careful. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Said if you treat me bad or make me sad, my Father in heaven is watching you. But I still love you like I do. And nobody's ever gonna love you like I do. Say, no one's ever gonna love you like I do. No one's ever gonna love you like I do. No one's ever gonna love you like I do. I don't know why I do, but I do. Yes, I do. Oh, there's a woman in me that keeps on loving you. I don't know why. Oh, I don't know why. I don't know why. But I do. Said I do. Said
Southern soul girl, rocking my world.
Hello.
Southern soul
Hello?
There you go.
Yeah, Brother Flood, how you doing, man?
I was hanging out.
Man, I appreciate you taking your time to stop the wheels in motion and call us up here, way up here in Sweet Poke.
Then I met this lady, a little bit younger. We
There you go.
talked a while.
Well, you know what? I forgot that. So I know you graduated from Southern in what?
And she could cook.
93 with me. And so you what is the station that you working for? Because I want to make sure I introduce you
I'm
properly.
feeling you. She had me hooked before I knew a Southern soul girl.
Gotcha.
Rocking
And
my
then you
world.
also you cover the Pelicans, right?
A Southern soul girl. Ooh, rocking my world. Yes, she is. I found love. I wasn't searching. Too many women, they left my heart hurting. A good girl, good looking,
Thank you.
good
Now
sex,
we ready whenever you are, man.
and good cooking. Southern soul girl, rocking my world. Yes, she is a Southern soul girl. Ooh, rocking my world. Yes, she is a Southern soul girl. Ooh, rocking my world. Yes, she is a Southern soul girl. Ooh, rocking my world. Yes, she is. Now you know the story, how things went down. We see each other flying in and out of town.
Issues That Matter with Calvin Lester and Stephen Jackson on WKSH 97.7 The Heat.
And we're back. Thank you very much for taking some of your time this evening to listen and participate in this conversation. We pray that it has been educational thus far. I'm Calvin Lester. That's Stephen Jackson, literally fresh from I-49 and whatever secret route he has to take to get back to Shreveport. He's been representing us and the citizens of House District 2 very ably, and we thank him for his service. Tonight we have a special guest, a very good friend of mine, reaching way back in the Jaguar Rolodex. We have with us tonight Brother Reggie Flood. Brother Flood is down there in Baton Rouge, but he's born and raised in the big city of Delhi, Louisiana. That's up north. And he's a 1993 graduate, like myself, of Southern University, literally the same class. And he is a sports writer extraordinaire. He is, ladies and gentlemen, this brother is a sports writer. He has a radio show on WBOK 1230 AM, which is the oldest continuously operating African-American station in the country. He also is a paid sports writer for the Pelicans. He covers the Pelicans. He covers the Saints. He has the Big Time HBCU podcast on HBCU Sport. Many of you who are Southernites like myself, when you want to know what's going on in Southern University or HBCU athletics, you wait till Reggie gets on Facebook and watches his live at night. But without further ado, we have good friend of this program, Brother Reggie Flood. How you doing, Brother Flood?
I'm beautiful, Brother Lester. It's good to be with y'all, man. You know, like you said, I'm a North Louisiana guy. I was born in Monroe, raised part-time in Delhi, and raised part-time in Baton Rouge. So I'm Louisiana through and through, but North Louisiana is my heart. Start with a D and it ends with an I. We call it Delhi.
There you go. There you go. So listen, I've been wanting to get you on the program for a while, and I'm looking forward to, during football and other seasons, have your commentary. But one of the things that I really wanted to speak to you about and get your take on, you had a really interesting live the other day. A lot of folks are concerned across the country with this sweeping of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI legislation, where governors around the country, particularly in the South, one after the other, are trying to get rid of diversity programs. It's happened in Florida. It's happening in Alabama. And by all intents and purposes, it looks like it might be happening in Louisiana. And one of the things that the national president of the NAACP said is, well, if you're going to not accept our smart students, you shouldn't accept your athletes. You had a very interesting take on how you think DEI, the rise of getting rid of DEI, is going to affect HBCUs, but particularly HBCU athletics. Can you talk to us about that? That's really what I want you to share with our audience.
Yeah, I think for HBCUs, this could be a moment where they're going to attack it, but you have to use it to our advantage. That's
right.
my thing.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I've got a lot of noise going on. That's my opinion, that we have to use this to our advantage. If they are going to be, if they're going to be turning around, and we've seen statistics have shown this, when you do away with diversity, equity, and inclusion, the first people who get excluded are African Americans.
Right.
As HBCUs, we have to be prepared to fight on two fronts. We have to be prepared for the political fight, which is why our legislative black caucuses all over the country, as HBCU alums, we have to be lobbying and pressuring them to fight. And at the same time, we have to have to make a landing place for those African American students. I don't like to use people of color. I like to be specific, because as black people, we're the only people who use people of color.
Right.
Hispanic people don't say people of color. Asian people don't say people of color unless they want us to help us with something. Well, help them with something.
Right.
So I'll just say it. Black people,
Right.
African Americans.
Right.
We have to be a landing spot for those African Americans whose places have, or who don't have a place at those schools, because it's going, like I say, the numbers have been proven that the people who suffer the most when these things are done away with are African Americans. And so we have to be the spot. We have to fight on that front, and we have to fight on the legislative front in these states. So I think that's going to be the first thing, because if a Southern University, if LSU is going to be cut the African American population, which is going to happen, no doubt about it, it is going to happen. If they're going to cut it, then we are going to have to be a spot that they can land at, because it's not just going to be LSU, it's going to be ULL, it's going to be ULM. They're all going to be cutting. So we, Southern and Grambling, have to create a spot for them to land and be able to get the things that they need in terms of higher education.
Right. Right. What do you think we need to do to be prepared for that from a governance perspective? I know that, again, you are an insider's insider when it comes to HBCU athletics. What types of things do we need to be prepared for, and as it relates to the potential of this influx of student athletes?
Well, it's always going to be infrastructure, from dormitories to food service to customer service to registration. We're going to have to be prepared. And I know it's always an issue of funding, and it's always going to be an issue of funding. And that's why I say we're going to have to fight on two fronts. We're going to have to fight on the legislative front, and we're going to have to fight on the legislative front, and we're going to have to fight on the front of getting students, because that's how we're going to have to pay for a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With student fees, with student fees and Pell Grant money, stuff like that. That's how we're going to have to fight. That's what we're going to have to use and fight, and we're going to have to keep these students in school, retention-wise, and be able to build our student body. And the more students we have, the more money we have, and that way we're also able to build infrastructure. So one hand works the other. It's going to be some growing pains. We're going to have to work together, but we're going to have to be able to get it done. And we got to be able to get in the fight though and do that.
You listen.
Be able to get in the fight and do that.
We are listening to Reggie Flood Reggie Flood, who is a HBCU guru, sports announcer, talented brother from Southern University. Brother Reggie, let's pivot real quick because DEI has seemed to be under attack, as you just noticed, and Calvin has talked about. Let's go back to, I want to say last year before last. The Supreme Court comes out with a decision that tosses out affirmative action. And that seems to be, let's go back before that, right? Let's go back to 2020, George Floyd, and the world has this awakening. And everybody from Bank of America to Chase Bank to all of these other places, they come out with these big and massive announcements that we're going to invest in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And these companies, they come up with all of these initiatives, right? And then the election of 2020 happened somewhere around 23, 24, 22, 23 sometime. The culture wars make an attack on DEI. And then there's the Supreme Court case that challenges affirmative action. And fast forward to 23, and the Supreme Court tosses out affirmative action, says it's unconstitutional. That's not what the framers of the Constitution intended. And so there seems to be this arbitrary rollback or intentional, or I guess you can almost say methodical rollback of diversity programs around the world. You see governors signing executive orders, getting rid of DEI, diversity and inclusion. And I want to get your thoughts. I have always believed that these attacks have they have very minimal impact on higher education. They're using higher education to get to a bigger issue, which is minority and diversity set-asides in contracting and business opportunities. Talk to us about that, or what are your thoughts?
In terms of the business, because you were going in and out.
Okay, I'm sorry. How do you feel that the decision on affirmative action, even though that's a higher education issue, that's education and academics, how do you think that coincides and relates to a sort of subsequent attack or subtle attack to undermine diversity and equity set-asides when it comes to government contracting, government opportunities for minorities?
I think it all plays hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just part of the attack. And make no mistake about this. This is an orchestrated attack.
Yes.
This is an orchestrated attack, and they're using the words and some of the methods of the civil rights movement to get rid of it. And this is an attack. If you want to weaken a community, what's the best way to weaken them? You weaken them on the education front,
Mm-hmm.
and you weaken them on the economic front.
Right.
And so, as a person who's a business person, a small business owner who has had to, I own a media company.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest complaints that we have in terms of being a media company is that we don't get the advertising dollars. I know you guys have heard Roland Martin say it. I know you've heard a bunch of people talk about this. But that is a fact. We don't get the advertising dollars that our white counterparts, they will spend money on black media that addresses entertains black people, but they won't spend money on actual black-owned media.
Right.
With that being said,
with Chase Bank making all these billions of dollars we're going to make billions of dollars of investments in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Where is it?
Right.
But we found that to be a farce. And what's happening now, the very people who felt the pressure to make those commitments are the same people who have been pressuring and backing the people who are lobbying to get rid of DEI.
Right.
Right.
So that is it's let's be honest, a lot of it is just the American way.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's just the American way. And I think as business people, I don't have the answers. I wish I had the answers. But I know, as being here and being at the age that I am, we've seen this before.
Right.
The thing we have
Right.
to do is not panic, be prepared to weather the storm, and be strategic in what we do.
Right.
And that's what I talk about when I talk about we have to fight. We have to, because we have to be politically strategic in terms, even if most of us who are fighting this fight live in red states.
Right.
But Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama have very large black populations.
Right.
And what we have to do, first of all, like in Louisiana, we had a situation, we had an African American gentleman, Sean Wilson, running for governor. We didn't show up to vote. Now, that's a whole nother
I'm gonna have something to say about that in a minute.
Yeah, people will talk about, well, we didn't show up to vote. But you have to give us something to vote for.
Right.
And I know this is the quiet thing that people won't say out loud. But we weren't motivated to vote, and that's not a knock against Sean Wilson.
Right.
It is a knock, but it's not a knock.
Right.
But it's just odd to me that Sean Wilson, a man who's a nice guy, a smart guy, but was not the best candidate politically to run for governor.
Right. Begs the question.
Well, all kind of deals were made on that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, that was not the best candidate.
Right.
And not saying that the best candidate had to be black. The best candidate had to be a person that we could vote on, that would we could vote our interest behind.
Mm-hmm.
That would have our interest in mind.
Right.
And if you happen to be a black person, that's a great thing. But as nice as Sean is, he's a great guy. He was not the best candidate, and he was, for a lot of black people, they didn't feel like he had an opportunity to win.
Right. Right. So look, Sean, I'm gonna be parochial. I'm gonna get us out of here on a sports question.
Reggie.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Reggie.
That's all right.
I want to do this because you cover sports all the time. Give us your take on the performance of our HBCUs in this most recent NCAA tournament. Tell us what are your thoughts about, not just, obviously we congratulate Grambling for getting to the play-in and doing a yeoman's job, but talk to us about, as you have watched HBCU basketball and the whole basketball landscape, talk to us about how you think what you think the state of HBCU basketball is, and how well or not well did they do as it relates to the tournament.
I thought they did well. I was glad to see Grambling go. I think Grambling is a well-coached team. He recruits well. Coach Dante Jackson, I think he recruits well. They're a well-coached team. Grambling's women had a good run in the NIT, although they lost to ULM the other night. I think our HBCUs, I think basketball, I know we live in football country, but I think the method to us becoming more competitive with the Power 5 and the larger schools may be through basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we may be finding something, and I hope we can stick with it and be committed to it. But I was proud of the way, and I think we can do better. And one thing I want to encourage people who are listening to us and who may listen to this on replay or whatever, stop comparing our HBCUs to the Power 5 schools, to the
Right.
LSU, to the Texas A&M, to the University of Texas. That's apples to oranges. Compare us to our like schools, to our PWI like schools, the Magnesians of the world, the Nickel States, because until we get equity and funding,
Mm-hmm.
because we're talking about equity, that's the base. Until we get equity and funding, we're not going to compete with the larger schools. So stop comparing us to those schools when we're not. It's not an equity. It's not equity involved. It's not an equal comparison. So just stop it. And another thing is, for the legislatures, for African Americans in this state, and for Mississippi and all these southern states, go and work with our legislative black caucus to make sure that the Southern University system, the Southern University gets the over $1 billion that is owed from the state of Louisiana from the federal government. And quiet as it's kept, part of the reason you see the push for DEI on anti-DEI on college campuses in these southern states is because they do owe a lot of our HBCUs a lot of money in these southern states, and that they're using the threat of DEI and taking away funding to keep them in line so they don't have to pay them. That's what's going on in Tennessee right now.
Right.
Tennessee State didn't have an issue until they asked for the $500 million that they were owed in land grant funds. The Governor Landry wants to do a constitutional session this year, and I suspect that there'll be some kind of amendment proposed to the Constitution so he can make some adjustments with Southern as it is written into the Constitution, with Southern being the Southern University system. I think that's what they're doing because they don't want to deal with the fact that they have shortchanged HBCUs across the country for millions and in some cases billions of dollars. So just be aware of those things.
Right.
And I'll close out on that.
Brother Flood,
Thank you for joining us.
thank
man.
you so very much, man. And from time to
Thank y'all for
time,
having me.
yeah, we definitely want to bring you back to the show and get your expertise on HBCU athletics. We are very proud of, obviously I'm a proud graduate of Southern University, and Johnny and Stephen are graduates of Grambling State University, so we are 100% SWAC on this channel, and we definitely want to get that information about what's going on the inside of the SWAC, because we know if there are 5 phones that ring when something goes down, you might be number 4 or you ain't number 6. So we thank you for.
Sometimes I'm the one making the call.
Well, I've heard about that too. So, Brother Fudd, thank you, man, for calling in. You have a great evening. Love to you and your family, brother.
You too. Thank y'all. Talk to y'all later.
Yeah. You know, that's good to have him because I have to go speak to some women tomorrow for brunch I think it's in conjunction with SBDC, SBA.
Right.
And, you know, part of my point is going to be to make that tie between education and economics.
Right.
This is the undermining of affirmative action
Right.
was really, to me, I will always believe that it was never about we don't want you over here at this school, because the best and brightest of African Americans can get into Harvard, Yale. They can get in there.
Right. For the most part.
For the most part, they're going.
Right.
So that's, to me, don't anchor me that way. What y'all really want to do is y'all want to try to peel back programs like Fair Share,
Right.
SBDC, all these. Y'all want to peel back all of these set aside programs, and if we're not smart and if we're not wise on it, they will come in, slip up, and do it. I want to say this to wrap up, because I spend a lot of time in Baton Rouge these days, but I get a lot of phone calls. And people put a lot, and I heard him say that we need to be working with the Legislative Black Caucus. He is absolutely right. We need to be working with the Legislative Black Caucus to make sure we're keeping our eyes on the ball. But here's what folks have to have an expectation of, because he talked about the Sean Wilson, the governor's race last year. Regardless of how bad of a candidate Sean Wilson may have been, and I'm going to say may, because I don't want anybody to think I'm attacking Sean Wilson.
Right.
Sean Wilson's a great guy.
He is. Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Regardless to how bad you might have thought he was a candidate, the fact remains we did not go vote.
Nope.
And now, here's what is hilarious to me, almost offensive to me, is people call me every day with an expectation that myself and my 32, 33, 34 Democratic colleagues can stop 72 Republicans. I don't know if that math adds up. I think my math is off a little bit.
Well, you know,
'Cause
there's
it's
some
105.
independents. There are independents.
There are no independents in the legislature.
Oh, no?
There's not a single independent.
Really?
You're either a Democrat,
or
you are a Republican.
Okay.
This was the great purge, brother.
Ah.
Ain't no Democrats.
Okay.
You either a Republican or a Democrat.
I got you.
And so they call with an expectation that either myself or my other Democratic colleagues can come somehow
Double your numbers.
Double our numbers, multiply ourselves, and go stop bad bill after bad bill after bad bill after bad bill.
Right.
Or somehow we can turn ourselves into a pen and go veto bills. We don't have that responsibility to veto. We don't have that authority to veto bills. And so when you sit at home and don't go vote.
Oh, no, you stop a bad bill in November.
Right. That's when the bad bills get stopped.
Yes.
You should have been voting.
That's right.
But it is hilarious when people call me. And then the other thing is I get Republicans calling me. Well, you know, I consider myself a free market Republican. And I just think that this here idea here is just far-fetched. It's too far-fetched. Well,
I mean, them your people.
Them your people.
That's your cousin.
But you're calling me.
Right.
You're calling me. You're on my phone.
Right.
Wait, on my time.
Right.
Talking about, can you stop this bill?
Yeah. Stop your cousin.
Stop your friend, your neighbor.
Oh, whoa.
Your country club.
The person that you gave the contribution.
But the person who you endowed.
You supported.
The person you endowed.
Yeah, you supported them.
Right. And so how is it? They're sponsored by you. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
This is sponsored by you. And so, folks, I'm saying all that to say is, so glad that Henry, I heard you talk about it earlier on my way in, so glad that Henry won the election the way that he did, but do understand that we should have this type of turnout every time.
Right.
Candidates.
Right.
You should be motivating your base like this every time. Because the situation that we're in, and I know we're running over, the situation we're in Baton Rouge is so much so that supermajorities where there are no independents, if you really think you have seen some stuff,
right
now I see the bill going around where Senator Feisty has filed a bill so that the governor can appoint the heads of the university systems and the commissioner of higher education and the board chairs of each system.
Yeah.
And everybody's mad. Oh my God, y'all got to stop this.
You should have stopped that in November.
Where were you in November?
Yeah. Or and this point, and I'll shut up. If we vote for Sean makes a runoff. Right. At some point, we can ask him, "Hey, what you gonna do about that?"
Right.
But he got to get to be governor without having to answer any tough questions.
Right.
Which could have said, "Oh, wait, you gonna do what? I don't believe in that." At least he could have been put on the record to say what he was going to do, and if he changes, now he's a flip-flop, and you can deal with that.
You can deal with it.
But you let somebody get elected, and they didn't have to answer no. He didn't go to any debates.
No.
He didn't do nothing like, hey.
You got people who are in unions, police and fire, I won't put a name on it.
Right.
I hear mad because now the governor and the legislature are trying to do a constitutional convention to remove protections from unions.
All right.
But y'all all they got to do is run out there and say, we back in the blue line.
Yeah. They back y'all right into a corner.
They backed you right into a corner where they probably about to take your supplemental pay.
Bruh, they cutting heads.
They coming for your supplemental pay.
They cutting heads.
But now you want to come to 34, the 34, 32, 33, however many.
Look, like y'all the Avengers.
Come on.
Johnny, you need to play the Avenger me. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
Just like, bro.
Hey, man.
Oh, this gold currency is a bad idea. This is the silliest idea that I heard.
Hey,
maybe they came up with that while y'all was out there on the golf course.
I mean, these guys didn't pull this stuff completely out of thin blue, out of whole cloth. The fact of the matter is they've had these wild ideas for the longest. The thing and I'm done with this.
Me too. I just had to get that off.
No, you're right.
I had to clear my throat with that.
No, you should. I think
I got that from Cal.
Right. Legislative bodies need to have some yin and yang. You need to have enough to get to a point, but there needs to be enough of the other party so that you have to come to some reasonable conclusion to get to where you're going.
Right.
When you have one group that says they do what they want to do, they can do really bad things, they can do some really good things, but there's no check and balance, and I just think there needs to be. But we'll talk about that some more. We have been listening. You have been listening to Issues That Matter.
I do want to leave with make sure that we recognize that this Sunday coming is Easter, and so
Yes.
hope you enjoy your Easter. I know the holidays are stressful for a lot of people, so I
Yes.
always like to just say, go put some flowers on the tombstone if you need to. Go
Right.
visit the loved one in the nursing home if they need a visit. But do whatever it does. Don't feel the pressure of having to celebrate a holiday. Easter is not about a bunny coming up in somebody's house leaving chocolate. That chocolate might be poop, but
Right.
don't be fooled about what Easter and resurrection is really about. And so, Good Friday is tomorrow.
Yes.
Everybody wondered what happened on Saturday. Nothing.
Right.
And then there was the resurrection on Sunday. So let's make sure that we recognize what the real meaning of Easter is about. And again, don't feel pressured to go put on some pastel suit. If you got a black suit in your closet,
Right.
dust it off. And if you want to go to church, please go to church. Be under somebody's covering. But don't feel like you got to go buy, oh, I don't have a good pastel colored suit. I can't go. Or my hair not. Don't do all that.
Right.
That's not what Easter is about.
Amen. 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 This has been Issues That Matter, 97.7 The Heat, WKSH. We play what we want to say, and we say what we want to say. Thank you, and happy Resurrection Sunday. God bless.